Hey everyone, Dr. Sabrina Souls here with my amazing husband Zach.
Howdy, Zach.
We, by popular demand, we are going to make our video about carnivore diet for beginners, basically where to start. So I sat down and I was just like, well, if I was going to be restarting this, like what were my steps that I took and how can I easily communicate these to people? So basically came up with 5 steps. So 5-step process to starting carnivore if you are brand new to it, okay? Obviously, the carnivore diet, the carnivore way of living, is basically getting the majority of your food from animals and animal based products. So, the first step is simply to eliminate anything that isn't that. So, what does this mean? This is your seed oils, for sure. We harp on seed oils. This has to go. These are gone. Gone. Second thing, vegetables, of course, nuts, seeds, grains, anything that's packaged truthfully, and anything that contains added sugar.
Yeah, or anything that has an ingredients list or a label. So go through your refrigerator and throw all that stuff away. Throw away any oils, olive oil, avocado oil. Those are all garbage. You
That
go
falls under
into your
seed oils.
kitchen. Yeah, go into your kitchen and throw away anything that's derived from plants.
Yeah.
That'd be the first step.
I will caveat that with I still drink coffee. He has gone through like phases where you might be in and out of it. If you are going to make the choice to drink coffee, try to get one that is like certified mold free, organic. I do see a lot of toxin tests on people, and coffee is a major source of ingested toxins in a person's diet. And we'll touch on this other aspect at the end of this. But second step, simply to add in your sources of carnivorous foods, right? So increasing, this can be meat intake, so maybe ribeyes, New York strips, ground beef, ground chuck, whatever is sounds appetizing and is in budget for you, add that in. Sorry, loud kids. Bacon, eggs. This can be pork. This could be, what else do we got?
What for
Lamb,
animal
venison,
foods?
yeah.
Lamb, venison, eggs, hard-boiled eggs. We buy butter.
Lots of butter, beef tallow. You can also do
Ghee.
ghee.
You like ghee? I don't like the flavor of ghee. Ghee kind of makes me.
Yeah. So I also want to make an important distinction in this step here where we're adding in the animal products. You do not want to add in additional animal products into your diet in the presence of seed oils and sugar. Okay. Yes. Being carnivore is not simply just eating more meat, because if you do that and you're still eating the seed oils and still eating the sugar, you're actually going to make your health worse.
Yeah, I in the beginning I said that when I started the group, like carnivore is not just mean stay on your diet and add a bunch more meat. That'll actually be twice as deadly as the diet you're already on.
So all the research that says things like, oh, meat is bad for you, saturated fat is bad for you, that is only true in the context of seed oils and sugar.
Right.
Because it produces something called glycation. And glycation is a fancy word for, I don't know if you've ever cooked and you've seen like the gross caramelization of like fat and sugar that happens. That basically happens inside your body. Mm-hmm. Avoid that. Yeah. Just avoid it. Just don't do it, right? So this isn't just add meat. It is remove the other stuff first. That's why the first step is eliminate. Second step is add. Okay. Third step, test. You have to test out what works for you. Every single person is very, very unique. Even between him and I, we have a ton of differences in the things that either of us can tolerate on this way of eating. So test if dairy works for you. Test if cheese works for you. Test if you need to eat once a day, 3 times a day. Test it out. Nobody is going to be able to tell you what works for you besides you. Full stop. Test it out. And this also goes for testing what you need for electrolytes. Some people are going to do well with multiple servings of electrolytes throughout the day. Some people might use 1 serving. This is going to depend on your activity levels, where you live in the world. A whole bunch of stuff goes into this. Any underlying conditions. And you might not just need electrolytes, you might also need minerals as well too, depending if you have any sort of underlying chronic diseases. Your mineral requirements go up dramatically. And even if you're taking other medications and stuff too, right? Like you have to test. So don't just like go start doing this for a week and say, oh, it's not working for me anymore because I've experienced this, or this isn't the thing. Like,
we get a lot. There's a lot of people by week one. I mean, the first couple weeks sucks. I'm not gonna lie. It's not fun. Especially if you do strict carnivore. Like if you're coming off of like being incredibly unhealthy going to this, it's very, very difficult. If you're already relatively healthy and you're not necessarily doing it because she's an example of this. She didn't have to do like the strict carnivore. She didn't go through any of the crazy sugar withdrawals because she was already pretty metabolically healthy. So like for me, I wasn't, and it was the roughest 2 weeks. It was terrible. I did use coffee to get me through that because it kind of helps, just like kickstart you when you're feeling like crap. But um, you definitely want to consider that 100%.
And this is why the third step is to test things out, because with things aren't feeling right, there's probably some augmentation that you need to make. And thankfully, our Facebook group, it's a Carnivore, Harder, Happier, Healthier. There's a pile of people in that group who are so motivated to help you feel better. It is a very giving group, a very kind group. So if you're going to join that with those expectations that we expect that of you too. The fourth step, and it's fourth, but it could be third too, and it's transition. And this is a step because you have to allow your body to go through the transition. Like, you have to be purposefully, mentally ready to transition from one being a sugar burner to a fat burner, right? You have to be, you're metabolically going to switch, right? You're going to be less carb dependent. You're going to be more apt to be able to go into ketosis and to burn fats. You're also going to go through a transition in your stools. Okay. There's usually some sort of diarrhea that happens in the first couple weeks, if we're just going to be blunt and say it out loud, but that will normalize and you're going to end up with the best bowel movements you've ever had in your life. Yep. Okay. There's also going to be a transition with cravings. Your body is not going to go down without a fight as far as when it comes to giving up sugar and its other like sources of delicious stuff. This is a whole other conversation, but there is going to be a component of your cravings that are related to some degree of emotional eating.
Yeah, that's huge.
Emotional eating is a huge thing. Here's why. Because 95% of everything that we do on a daily basis is mediated by our subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind was developed between the ages of 0 to 7, possibly up to age 14, with experiences that happened to us. This doesn't necessarily mean, oh, happy childhood, I have no problems, wrong, but it means that we learn to understand things about the world around us at that time period, and that's what drives all of our behavior. So it's not necessarily your fault if you are driven as an emotional eater for seeking certain types of comfort food, but it is your responsibility as an adult to overcome that. And there are ways to do that. And again, not your fault, but your responsibility. Okay. So if you do feel like you are coming up against some degree of emotional eating, you will sabotage yourself, again, going back to step 2, which is adding in the meat and the presence of these other delicious hyperpalatable foods. You will make things worse.
Yeah, and you have to get rid of them because it's very hard when you're going through that. If you're walking in the kitchen and you're staring at stuff that you used to eat, and it's very, that when you're going through that stuff, it's going to be very, very difficult. So my things, I would just go in and I would actually just throw it away. Right? That's what we say. Get rid of it. So
yeah, and I am speaking this from a place of complete love and understanding as somebody who suffered with multiple eating disorders over a couple of decades. Okay, I started my first eating disorder when I was in about 5th grade, and I had to fully recover from this shit. And by all intents and purposes, I had a great childhood. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean one thing or the other, but the emotional component to it, driven by our subconscious mind, driven by incidences that happen to us and things that we learned at a young age, that will 100% drive these choices. So in this transition period, if you are getting those cravings, you need to figure out how to work through your shit. And I say that with love. Anything else in the transition phase people should look out for?
no, just pay attention to your body. Don't and don't necessarily ignore things and just say, oh, this is going to be fine. I mean, some of the issues can be pretty debilitating, like heart palpitations and things like that I went through. And just paying attention to your electrolytes and trying to figure that stuff out. And then ask questions. Like if you're going through something and you're like, I don't know if this is normal, just ask people in the group or ask other carnivores. Don't. Some of those groups is just, there's like there's just a ton of people in there, and everybody's been on carnivore for a week, and they're telling you do this and do this. Like listen to somebody who's educated on it or has some sort of history with carnivore. Don't just and like for me, I learned from other people. That's everybody's like, oh, how do you know all this stuff? It's like, well, I went out there and I did the research and found the right people and listened to all the doctors and listened and compared them side by side and kind of figured out what works and what doesn't.
Look it, it's just a baby eating a hard-boiled egg.
You got
this
a hard-boiled
is not
egg?
even planned, but this is how our baby. Like, this is how
he
our
went in there
is.
and stole a hard-boiled egg off the counter, and now he's eating it. So
he went and hunted.
He climbed
his protein.
up on the counter because it's up
egg,
there. He's saying egg, yeah. So this 18, what's he, 18 months? 19?
20 months.
Oh, he's 20 months now. Almost 20 months. It's like in 2 days.
Yeah.
Egg,
yes.
That's right. But he crawled up, like opened the counter, stood on the inside of the counter, had to like reach up, grab the egg, pull it out of the package, and start eating it. So most kids would do that with Pop-Tarts, right? But he's doing it with a hard-boiled egg, and he's just like, hey, sir, what are you knocking it on the floor for? But yeah, but that's our kids. I think like Zoe's got definitely has a sweet tooth. We have to watch her
Because we transitioned to this when she was already older, but I'm hoping that she's still in, like, she's only 4.5, so her subconscious mind is still now going to be programmed with pro carnivore way of eating. Again, we had some stuff that we had to work through with her, and we're going to be doing Dr. Kiltz's ice cream recipe here later today, because again, we don't want to deprive our kids of like the normal childhood things, but we're
not gonna make it with sugar.
No.
It's gonna be mostly cream and
and it's so
some, a little vanilla extract and some eggs, and it's actually pretty good. I think we're gonna put the Lao Gao, which is like
the monk fruit sweetener,
just to give it a little bit of the
But so that's a total sidetrack. So
anyway,
that was at step 4, which is the transition phase, whatever you want to call it. And then 5, this step we're going to call your troubleshooting and maintenance step. Okay, you will reach a point where this actually becomes a preferred default state for you. And you're gonna, because here's the thing, none of us are perfect. We're all gonna go through like quote unquote cheats, or where we're gonna test things that we used to eat before just to see if it's gonna bother us. And we'll call that troubleshooting, right? Like you're troubleshooting if this is going to be a positive thing for you. You're going to troubleshoot to see if you still like those things. You're going to troubleshoot to see if your taste buds changed, or if your body feels any different after you eat those foods. And I'll tell you, all of that's going to happen. We have done our troubleshooting just to see if, okay, do I still like that? Is that still a thing? And sometimes it can be difficult when you're in the presence of other people.
Let's get over this side.
In the presence of other people, simply because everybody else is still eating the traditional way. And, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, can I see if I do feel shitty or do feel worse? The answer is a resounding yes.
Yeah, you'll definitely figure that out.
Yeah, so then again, this becomes a transition to maintenance, where now you have you've come through all the steps, and you understand and you feel that this is your species appropriate diet, this is your species appropriate way of living, and you get to reap all the benefits of doing that, right? You get your clear skin, you get your good energy, you get your great sleep, you get your great digestion, you get an improvement or elimination of chronic diseases that you may have, you get to leave behind prescription medications, you get to get off of supplements, like the list goes on, right? And then with energy to spare, right? So now maybe you're pursuing those hobbies that you wanted to pursue, you're starting a company you wanted to start, you're thinking clearer, you have a better vision for your future, for your family's future. Like, here's the thing too that I wanted to touch on that I kind of talked about earlier, is that the carnivore diet per se becomes more about the carnivorous way of living. And I say that also because beyond just the food that you consume, you start to think about all the other things that you consume as well. The company that you keep, the things that you watch on TV, the things that you watch or listen to, like all of that consumption, you start to think about, is this actually really what's good for me? I mean, us personally, like we realize that our whole like way of living in Phoenix or in Arizona is actually no longer in line with our values and the carnivorous way of living, right? Like everything here is basically it's a metropolis, like it's a big city, and it's all it's all built around going out to eat, spending money at these places that don't actually align with our values at this point.
Yeah, it's all toxic.
Everything's toxic.
Basically, you're sorting through all these different activities or things that you could eat, and most of them eventually will kill you.
Yeah.
So like the only lifestyle that is appealing to me would be one where I'm away from, big masses of people and outside, and where the food is clean and there's water and you can walk around. Like here, I mean, you walk outside, it's 130 degrees outside, so it's
it just really becomes hard to do things like, because nothing that is available to us is now in line with stuff. And you could look at that as one of two ways. Like, it is a little bit, sad at first, because you're like, well, shit, now that I see it, I can't unsee it. Like, you can't unlearn this stuff in enough of an amount to actually make it so that you feel okay acting out of integrity with yourself.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it becomes. It becomes, well, if I'm going to go choose to do this thing or eat this thing, I'm now out of integrity with myself, my beliefs, what I know to be true, and how I feel.
And I don't feel like I don't feel bad, but so like when you hang out with other people, initially it's like everything kind of feels like an assault. Like the type of food that they bring over, or that they're drinking alcohol, or they're doing this or they're doing that. Like those kind of things are real, and I don't feel bad about how I feel. I feel bad that the people that I'm around aren't aware of these things, and that they're literally destroying their body. Like we had a party yesterday. It was great. I love the people that came over. Not dissing them at all, but everybody brought something, and it's like then I had to worry about Zoe going over and like eating ranch dressing that has canola oil in it, and I had to like go stop that, or like avoiding drinking alcohol or whatever. There's like all these things that we want to do.
Navigating social situations becomes a lot more difficult.
It's definitely difficult. It's not.
And you either are the weirdo, or you have to defend what you believe, or you act out of integrity with yourself.
Right.
Hey,
so for me, like and yesterday they left a few things, and it was like one of them was like a yogurt with granola and all this different stuff, and I started reading the ingredients of the yogurt, and the yogurt wasn't really yogurt. It was like
it had like corn syrup in it.
I had a concoction of different things to make it look yogurt, so it was yogurt-like substance, and Zoe was like, "Oh, I want to eat that," and I literally took both of those brand new things and threw them in the trash and I felt bad, like sorry Zoe, you don't understand, but I have to take those steps and I have to make those choices. Like it has cornstarch in it, which is terrible for human beings. You should never take the essence of any sort of plant and ingest it. But those are the kind of decisions you got to make, and you have to just draw a line. And when people don't, if people don't get it,
navigating social situations is going to be another challenge that you're just going to have to figure out how you want to deal with, because there isn't a hard and fast answer, because I don't know the people that you're around, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to be so interesting to you, because nobody is going to like bat an eye at somebody who goes and orders through the drive-thru and drinks the soda and whatnot. But if you go out to dinner and you only eat a steak and you ask for it to be cooked in butter, people are gonna think like, "What the hell's wrong with you?"
Like, oh, okay, so I should, just eat whatever you put on my plate just because you put it there and you think it's, So that's the thing, and I'm really good at that. The problem with me is the diplomatic stance to it. Like I'm just more like,
yeah,
fuck you, get away from me. I don't want to eat that. And where it's like,
well, the conversation with that then becomes: is it more important to monitor how another person feels, or what feels good for you and your body?
Yeah.
What is more important to you? And if the answer is yes, it's more important to me to keep the peace when I go to Thanksgiving dinner with this extended my family, and if I don't eat the goddamn stuffing, someone's gonna lose their shit, and that's fine. That's fine. That's the choice that you make, but then stand in your choice and deal with the consequences. But ultimately, like for me or for us, it's gonna matter more to hold integrity with the things that we do, and it's
Anyway, we went on a couple tangents.
Yeah, a couple tangents at the end, but at least if you wanted the instructions, you at least saw that at the initial part of this video. Join our Facebook group, Carnivore, Harder, Happier, Healthier. We're just trying to help everybody out in there. Drop questions if you have them for us, and let us know what kind of other content you want to see.
Sure, we'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye. Bye.